So in this video, I was like recording it. I mean, I was editing it, and as I was editing it, I realized I'm like, yo, I don't think I put enough emphasis on how depressing it really is. Imagine streaming for 8 to 10 hours a day, and you go home with $1. But that's what I wanted to say before you get into this video. And I hope y'all do enjoy the video, the reaction, whatever. But yeah, we're still gonna react to that. Oh, here we.
If you travel to Chongqing, you have to visit this place. This monument was built to celebrate the victory of China.
Look at this lady on TikTok Shop. How many phones? Is this violating any fire code in China? Oh man, the outlet. Listen, before we really get into it, can we just marvel at the level of science fiction dystopia we're talking about? This is a stream where these girls sit in a room full of remote control cars, and I'm assuming this is their manager in the back, but you can pay to drive on the floor around these women with a POV camera. My goodness is the only appropriate phrase I can think of. Here's one where you can pay for control of a mini excavator, and yeah. When you have a 25-year-old,
I ain't gonna lie, that's actually very weird. Like, what the shit?
With a biological engineering degree and a master's in business analytics, quitting her job as a strategy consultant at a pharmaceutical company because she preferred to work as a barista, then you start to see the effects of the so-called 996 work culture. And if you're kind of familiar with the work culture in China, then you've known about this for years, but it's the work culture of working 12 hours a day for 6 days a week. That's 72 hours of work every 6 days. There's only 140.
I would say we have a terrible working condition and stuff, but them, low key, their shit is like terrible. I ain't gonna lie. I would.
Day off, instead of being at work for 50% of all the hours in a week, you only work 42%. Words like dehumanizing have been thrown around, but yeah, it's very known and you get it. The work culture is very stressful, the job market is very selective, and it led to a trend of young adults preferring to just have a regular job, instead of trying to be the executive at some company headquarters in downtown Beijing. In 2025, a record 12.7 million people graduated from college in China, and there aren't enough jobs for them. 12.7 million people. But that leads us back to these talent agencies. So they're called multi-channel networks, and they're basically talent factories.
So depressing, bro. Holy shit, this looks very like dystopian.
And there was 60,000 of them in 2025. They have teams that handle training and content development, which means they control and shape your online presence. You become an actual puppet to the key opinion leaders, because opinions are left to them. Yours aren't important. And man, to be on a platform as a career where you can't even do what you want, you just have to be a promotion tool for advertisers that pay the talent factory you work for, that's kind of like Kevin Hart, who is no longer a personality, he is just DraftKings. But the desire to do pretty much anything aside from working in an office or a cubicle led to scenes like this, where multiple streamers are just sitting on the street, doing this for hours by the way, and not everyone is making good money, despite a lot of them being signed to a talent agency. But since they're signed, and not everyone,
on a good day, they make up to $87 equivalency over 8 hours of just standing there and just being a robot. On a bad day, her tickets could be low. Damn! 150 in one day. You're standing there for 8 hours and you make $1.50. That's so crazy to me that you have a job. Your job is to basically that's crazy to me.
One is making good money, despite a lot of them being signed to a talent agency. But since they're signed, that means they have to split even when they don't make a lot of money. And at that point, you might as well be independent. But there's 60,000 agencies, and the influencers in these agencies make up most of the big creators on Douyin, the OG version of TikTok in China. And we still haven't even discussed the other side of social media, the side with the fuardai. These guys actually contributed to China's ban on flexing. Like seriously, if you flex too hard on Chinese social media, you will be banned. And I know what you're thinking, what the hell is a fuardai? Well, for one, despite looking like one word to my silly Western English-speaking brain, it actually translates into 3 words in Mandarin Chinese. It means rich second generation, and it's exactly what it sounds like. A lot of these guys are the younger millennials and older Gen Z people whose parents benefited from that one time in the 70s when China said, let's do capitalism, just a little. That's how we got a guy like Wang Zhilin becoming a billionaire despite the fact that his father was a, quote, peasant in Mao Zedong's army, making him a first-generation billionaire, while the second generation, his son, Wang Xikong, being famous for saying the most important thing to look for in a woman is big
is.
Now, the thing about China being a sort of capitalist country with a communist government, things that greatly demonstrate the wealth inequality are frowned upon. Which, of course it is. It's pretty much like that in every country, but not every government actually cracks down on flexing. It was announced in May 2024 that platforms will start cracking down on flashy behavior. And I first learned about it when I found this guy. Now, at first, I thought I might have made a mistake because every article was calling him the Kim Kardashian of China.
What the hell?
I guess they just call him Kim Kardashian because he's flashy. But he is a very wealthy guy. He owns 7 different houses and he's often seen wearing millions of dollars worth of jewelry. And he didn't become wealthy because of social media. He became famous because he was already rich when he decided to become an influencer. You see, his family started off with a coal mining business, but it appears they found more than coal because it eventually turned into a jewelry empire. But flaunting how wealthy you are doesn't really fit with the image the CCP
Where's all this happening at, huh? Africa?
wants for the country, since about half of the workforce is making less than $5,000 a year. And he was pretty honest about where his money came from, like, you know, the fact that he didn't have to work for it. So as a result, overnight, all of his social media accounts were suspended. But it's bad enough that we have images like this coming out of China demonstrating the wealth gap. So the existence of these people who were just born rich on social media is only broadcasting it to larger audiences. And being on the Chinese side of the internet, I started to pick up on something that might have contributed to this crackdown. Some of the population in China, if not a majority, view the system created by Mao after the revolution as having saved China, as famine was much more common in imperial China, and social mobility was basically non-existent. All of that did in fact change for the better, despite the fact that some of the methods used to achieve this goal ended up costing millions.
An estimated 30 million people died of starvation in China, more than any other single famine in recorded human history. Most tragically, this disaster was largely preventable. The ironically titled Great Leap Forward was supposed to be a spectacular culmination of Mao Zedong's program for transforming China into
Millions of lives. So this kind of creates a reason to be content with what you have in China, because no matter what, you definitely have it easier than your grandpa did. Showing off wealth in the US, for example, may be frowned upon by some, but you have a lot of people who earn revenue simply because their lifestyle attracts viewers. And also, despite Douyin and TikTok being the same platform, essentially, there's been no such
Wisdom K, for example, bro. Like, he was already putting that shit on, but then once he like got bigger, now his shit, like, niggas got pieces of like $64,000 worth of pieces.
crackdown in the West, which adds to my belief that the Chinese government pushed
he
for
gets
it to
gifted
prevent
it, though.
discontent
Like,
from the
people give
public.
him
I haven't seen
clothes.
anything that explicitly states the Chinese government was behind it, but come on, we can use context clues. And like almost everywhere else, there's a huge body image thing in China. But if you know anything about East Asia and beauty standards, then you know this is gonna get sad really quick. So it's common knowledge, right, that the most popular beauty standard in China is pale, young, and slim, because colorism is really big in East Asia. And billions of dollars are spent on skin whitening products every year in China. In 2020, it was
so
predicted
crazy,
that the skin whitening industry in China will be making about $8 billion a year by 2026. But in 2026, the number is thought to have exceeded that. And unrealistic body standards didn't start with Chinese social media, but they sure have a unique version of it. And so I present to you the Coin Collarbone Challenge. Yeah. And here is the A4 Waist Challenge, where women will show off the fact that their waist
is that just like, yeah, we're skinny? This how anorexic we are? Welcome in, Aunt Relic. How's it going, bud? Whoa. Whoa.
was only as wide as a sheet of A4 paper. And the social media platforms profit heavily from pushing this agenda. For instance, according to Forbes, 87% of all hair and skincare sales in China happen online. And RedNote, a very popular app similar to Douyin in China, is 80% female. And as of last year, the app was generating about 60% of its revenue from advertising, with most of this advertising coming from beauty and cosmetics, because RedNote has dominated global beauty consumption. You open the app and you see an ad for a beauty product that pays RedNote. Then you see an influencer making a product video about that product you just saw. And since RedNote has become the go-to place to buy cosmetics online for people 18 to 34 in China, you buy something and contribute to RedNote profit.
That shit seems so depressing, bro. So 0. There was literally like, look, that's 3. That seems so depressing, but that's even more depressing than our beauty standards over here. Like, you can be fat and obese and shit, but them they hate you if you're even black. Like if you're even darker than the shade they want, they're like, oh, you're not attractive to us. You're not attractive at all.
But then for making you buy
crazy.
stuff to feel pretty. And yeah, similar things are happening everywhere,
Black
but
is
the
beautiful.
scale at which beauty is sold is astonishing in places like China and South Korea. Also, adult content is illegal in China. But you'd be crazy to think that means it doesn't exist. They still have OF creators using VPNs to get on the platform. And talent agencies heavily exploit something called Ta Bien Chiu. I think I said that right. It translates to edge ball. And it's, I mean, you can use context clues as to what it means. And it's usually demonstrated by female influencers doing pretty much anything that would be considered right on the line of not adult content, but almost adult content. But since the talent agencies appear to be kind of predatory, I don't really like the idea of them possibly cyber sex trafficking. Is that a thing? But the main thing that separates social media in China and the West is pressure. Like every now and then, we might see an influencer in LA crying because of stress, but in China, within a year, 2 big streamers died from an exhaustion-related ailment on stream. With one of them, Wang Jia, who passed in March 2026, only sleeping about 4 to 5 hours a night while streaming for 7 to 10 hours a day. And I'm not saying we don't have people that push themselves to the limit in the West. I just feel like, as a lazy American, I know that as a content creator, I don't work nearly as hard as some girl streaming in a warehouse in Shenzhen. And the regulation, while not as strict as something like the UAE, is still kind of strict. But again, China is actually...
That seems so, like, bro, streaming for 8 to 10 hours a day. Wow. Dude, look at this. You can't tell me that doesn't look like
a trendsetter. I mean, one of the most popular...
This is like dystopian-esque, bro. Like, bro, there's so many makeup videos of like Chinese women being like hideous, and then they look really beautiful after they put all on the makeup, and it's like 5 pounds of makeup type shit. I'm not like bashing them. I'm just saying, like, that's crazy to me. Like, the beauty standard is that high that you just have to that's crazy.
The apps in the world isn't some American or European app, it's TikTok. And although the CEO isn't from China, the parent company, ByteDance, is. But honestly, social media in general creates a very unhealthy culture. But when you mix it with certain things like the social pressure and work culture of certain East Asian countries, it can become the most toxic category of content creation very quickly. Also, remember that whole thing about TikTok being banned, and so everybody got worried and downloaded other apps because they thought they weren't going to be able to use TikTok anymore? Was that just a marketing scheme? I don't know. But I thank you guys for watching as always. Remember to follow your dreams and don't sign with a talent agency unless you think it's a good idea. But thanks for watching, and I'll...
Beauty not paying for real. Nah, you're lying.